Welcome to part 2 of form building. In the last tutorial we went through creating the form, and I'm starting off where we just left off at the completed form that we just ran through. Well, we're going to now move back to how do we get the information and what do we do with it. So to begin, I'm going to click here and go back to the form. We are back at the form, and here we see the form that we filled out. But I'm going to take a step back so we can think about where the form information is one more step. If I click on Communications Marketing going to my home page, if we scroll down, conference registration form that I built just now is down at the bottom, as it will all forms will be. If I want to search down here and only look for forms, we can always filter this. This will give us all the web forms in this department, and we see now we only see the web forms. So to get back at it, I'm going to click the Edit button. And now I'm back in the editing function. That should be familiar. The web form tab takes us to the web form where we built the form. But moving on from that, okay, we have data now. What do we do? One of the most common things we want to do when we have a in the form, and then we want to get a notification that somebody filled out the form. So this is often done with email. And I'm going to set up myself as a recipient of an email notifying me that somebody filled out the form and what their information they put into the form is. So to begin, I'm going to put my email in here. That indicates that that's who this email will go to. I'm going to click the Add button. And I didn't put the .edu. It's smarter than me. Alright, so I'm going to click the Add button. Alright, so here we have a few options for the email. Here it's going to say from submission form conference registration. We can change this to anything we want. From here to that, but I'm just going to leave this blank. Email from address communications@viterbo.edu. But I'm going to change this to component email. What this is going to do is it's going to say on my email box it's from whatever email address the user put into the form. So if Tom Jones filled out this form, I'm going to get an email. It's going to say it's not from communications, it's from Tom Jones. And it's going to say form submission from conference registration. That's going to be the subject. So I'm going to know by the subject of what it is. And the email from name, it's going to say Viterbo University by default, and I'm going to change it to be the name field of the form. So it's going to be whatever name the user filled out. So it's going to be Tom Jones, and then Tom Jones' email address, and then it's going to say form submission from conference registration. So that's the basics of it. Now I have it set up to send me, Eric Weinberg, an email saying it's from this user, and it's going to tell me it's a form submission from conference registration. Down below is the template that it'll send you. It'll say submitted on, it'll give you the date, the user. This will usually be blank because it only registers logged in users, but it doesn't hurt anything there. Submitted values are, and now this section will list all the values that they submitted in the form, all of the values they entered, whether it's a text box or a checkbox or and so forth. And then it'll give you a link to say this link will take you back to the submissions, the form submissions in the website. You will only be able to use this link if you're a logged in person, if you have access. But it's there for you to quickly get at the form, to edit or look at the results in there. So that's the default settings for the template. And for the most part, when you're setting up a form and you just want the data sent to you, you don't have to make any changes there. You'll just look at the data, how it's submitted. But you do have options. If you click on included email values, you see you can either include all components, which is the way it's set now, or choose to not submit certain items. This is often important if you are submitting such information such as social security numbers. While our forms are secure on our server, if that information is sent via an email is a much less secure system. So you may want to say, if this information was social security number, just to uncheck it so that doesn't get sent across via email. That doesn't mean you can't get to it, because we'll go through how you get to it other ways, but this is an option. You can either take it via email or not. So I'm going to save the settings. Okay, so now I have a basic email set up. So it's going to send me an email with basic information every time somebody fills out the form. So the next section I'm going to look at is, okay, so I have that set up. But now suppose I want to send a receipt to the user who filled out the form. I want to do that as well. So rather than putting my own address in here, I'm going to choose the component value here and choose the email address that they put into the field. So I'm going to email my email to that person who put that information into the form. I'm going to click Add. And in here, I want to change some stuff. Because in the subject, this default subject isn't really appropriate as an email receipt. So I'm going to change this to thank or conference. I can't spell this again. Registration confirmation. I keep forgetting letters. All right. So now we have that will be the email subject, a little more appropriate to send to the user. The email address, by default it says communication@viterbo.edu, but you probably want it to come from whoever's in charge of the conference. So since I'm in charge of it, I'm going to say let the users see my address. So if they reply to this conference registration, you will get the email. So I'll put that in there if this is the case. It's who the users will see the email comes from. Email from name, by default it's Viterbo University, but I'm going to change it to Great Conference Registration. Jeez Louise. Typing too fast today. Alright, so now it's going to say Great Conference Registration, it's going to have an email address and my address, and it's going to have a subject here. And that's what the users will see. But in this email receipt scenario, we see that this template doesn't really make sense. It got a lot of information with just a list of values. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this. And I'm just going to say, thank you for registering for the conference. Period. And it's happening. All right. That for anyway. So thank you for registering for the conference. We don't need the submitted on date, submitted by user information, so I'm just going to delete that. But now I'm going to do you sign up for, and I'm going to get rid of this as well, and I'm going to put colon here, and I'm going to use what I talked about earlier, these included email values. And then I'm going to unselect everything. And I am going to choose what I want to send to the user. And suppose I just want to have them see what sessions they're attending. So they know what they clicked in case they're looking at it for their records. So here we say, thank you for registering for the conference you signed up for, and then it will list the sessions attending. Now we have this other section after here. The results of this submission may be viewed at We don't need that for them either. So this is a more simplified field for a email receipt for a conference, where it's just going to put in place of the submission values tag the values down here, and it's just going to show the submissions that the user has. So I'm going to save the email settings. Now we have this set up. We have one email coming to me during the conference registration, another one going to the user who registered and thanking them for registering and telling them which session they signed up for. So that's how you do emails. You can set up as many of these values as you want. If you have somebody else you want to get the emails, Tom Smith at viterbo.edu, you can click add and follow the same processes of setting up so that they also get a receipt of the email from the session. So that's the basics of emails. There is, however, some advanced options where I'm going to jump into just briefly. If you have more questions on these, you can contact me and I can go through them, but I at least want to let you know they're here. So for this field, when I click submission values, it gives me all the values that are available in this included email values field. And if this goes beyond some people, you can probably ignore this and skip ahead a few minutes. But I'm just going to at least go through this and write something. Thank you. And then I want to say the name of the person. We can access those with what are called tokens. And those tokens allow us to access each individual field from the form. So I click here and I hit paste. Well, my paste didn't work, but we'll just write it. So I'm going to type submission values name. What this does is it grabs the exact name field from the form. So it's like writing a templated email if you've ever done that using Word. Thank you, whatever your name is, you signed up for, and then the values. Now, the values name, how do you get this information? Let me show you where that information comes from. I'm saving this. If I go back to the web form and I click on the form components section, which brings us back to the form we designed, when we click on name, we see down here a form key. Each field has one of these under them. That's the name that you're using if you use those templates. So it says name. So I'm going to go back to emails, and for the most part it's the name of the field that you created, but it's good to check. Click edit. And so what I have here is submission values name. So it's going to grab whatever they entered in that field, and so it'll personalize the response a little bit more. So that's a little bit more advanced setting that you can do as well. The other setting that's important is the form settings. This one allows you to customize what is called either the post back message or the response. So what they do when they click the submit button, what do they see on the screen? We could add thank you for submitting your information. You will receive an email shortly. Okay, so that's what they see when they submit the form. There's more settings under here, but for the most part, there's nothing you need to worry about. So that's saved as well. So now that's the information they will see. So our form is pretty much completed. We have set up to send them information. We have it set up to send us information as well. And we'll see the results via email, but we can also see the results when we log in and click on edit of the form. Up above, we've always had this results tab here. We haven't clicked on it yet, but let's do that now. So now we see a list of the submitted results. Not much information in it, but we see that there was one submission, the one that we created. We're going to click on analysis, and this is going to give us information on how many people selected certain items on the form. So the new select box, one person selected this, sessions attending, one person is attending the afternoon, and one person liked peaches. So some basic analysis to give you a sense of what people are selecting. Table gives you the raw data. When it was submitted by the user and all the fields they filled out and what values they had. And it also gives you a link to the PDF that they uploaded or the document they uploaded. As a side note, and I skipped this, but I'm not going to re-record, if we go back to the email, and we're going to do that in a second here. If I click on Edit, Web Form, and then go back to the emails here under the Web Form tab, we see in this top section, when I'm going back into the email, this should that we set up to send to me, there was a checkbox that said send email as HTML. That should be checked most of the time, but there's also another value that says include files as attachments. That means if you select this, the attached file that they uploaded will be sent along with the email. And so that makes sense for that to be checked. So if I'm getting an email that somebody filled out the form, I want to know that what their proposal was or whatever they filled out. For this email receipt, the user probably doesn't need a copy of the information they just submitted, so I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm going to migrate back to the Results tab that we just started on. Sorry about that slight detour. And click through Analysis, which we just talked about, and then over to Table again. And now we see the results as well as a link to the document they uploaded of the field. So this is how you view the results. You can see them all here. You can click on any of these fields and organize the results by those fields, sorting ascending or descending by any of these fields. You can also download the results. And here there's quite a few download options. For the most part, you want to use Microsoft Excel. This will allow you to download the files in there. You also have some list options of how you want it to be formatted in Microsoft Excel. I don't change many of these, but feel free to experiment. Here you can also choose not to download certain components. You can also select arrange. So if you have a form and you only want to check who submitted it over the last period of time, you can do that. Only new submissions since your last download, all submissions, last 12 submissions. Of course, once it's in Excel, you can just delete rows as well. So you can do it either way. So that's pretty much a comprehensive look at web forms. There is more as well. There are some more options that I can go through. Basically, that option is conditional forms. If somebody selects something on a particular form, we can make the form respond. So oftentimes you have a form that says, if you select C, then fill out more information. We can design web forms that will respond like that. I'm not going to go through that today. Maybe in a further tutorial we will go through that. But if you're interested, you can contact me. Thank you.